Small one.
Super violent.
I'm
They
trying to
fought
do
off and killed the weakest
one more
members of their
work up.
society, then started spreading out to the galaxy to take over
My
every
husband is
other
home.
planet.
Oh, happy
If the planets went
Tuesday.
along with this and accepted them
Why
as
am I
well,
husband
they
home?
got the
Oh my
benefits
god,
of
no,
tech
he's not
and
sick.
medical advancements.
No.
They got shit rocked into submission.
Anything, he's just home because my son have teeth done, you know. And I can do it, but I don't want to grab all my kids, work out at 6:45, we leave. He thinks it's 6:45. You know, it's just easy. He would do the kids. I would get one of the kids ready for school. I just don't want to grab all my kids up really early, drive over there, call my mom, pick it up. What's her name? Evie to school, which is just easy for him to do. I can't do the other kid.
Now I really like how this played out in the show. It's way more brutal. Yeah. Nolan doesn't only beat the shit out of Mark, but he really drives home how the more he tries to fight, the more he's gonna hurt everyone around him. This scene of him pushing Mark through a subway car with everyone getting crushed, like holy shit. And Mark obviously won't give up. He's genuinely confused and says that he knows his dad loves his mom. And then Nolan drops this.
She's more like a pet to me.
Can you imagine your father saying that about your mother completely out of the blue? And she can hear all of this because Nolan's earpiece is a two-way transmitter, so everyone at the GDA knows what's going on. Imagine hearing your husband refer to you as a pet. Because he just starts stressing how long they live and how everyone and everything he knows will be gone before he looks 30. So why fight this? What would he still have left after 500 years?
Look at that. I still have you.
And that's enough to spur Nolan to leave. He just vacates the galaxy. It just didn't traumatize Mark quite as much in the comics. And we see the fallout of the world realizing what happened after Omni-Man and Invincible's fight, the devastation, betrayal, the rebuilding, and Mark is a shell being put back together. And once he is, his friends are there. Amber is down to take him back, and just like usual, he gets called away. This is your favorite friend, Alan the Alien, who's here with some super important news to warn Mark there's a Viltrumite on the planet. Little late, pal. The two have a nice chat. Alan points out that it's super unheard of for a Viltrumite to abandon their post and ask what Mark's going to do next. We get a montage of all the stuff that still needs to be dealt with, and Mark, of course, says,
Finish high school, I guess. Oh, alright, good. What is high school?
what a great ending to have when we already know that seasons 2 and 3
And okay, guys, hire okay, we're at a house, we rent it. It's not our house, you know. We pay rent. And we got a guy, the lead, Yvonne, something like that. Got a guy go fixing our AC. And that my husband loving the car. Other day, we got a guy, Spanish guy. He speaks Spanish. He want do something about AC, fix the AC. I told the guy let my husband do it because that's his thing, not my thing, you know. Let me watch the news.
We'll catch you all later. Like, things are gonna get brutal and really bad. And there's an entire
my husband that Brian, that's a new guy, you know. Hey, I'm Brian, the woman got me this, no phone numbers, which is address. Alright, oh, okay, let me get my husband, that's his thing, not mine, you know. And my husband, I love him, he had anger issues. He got his gun, going to start shooting. Not really, not visually shooting. Anyway, pick his gun down. Don't shoot. He's just a guy, just do his job. That's all he's doing. Are you going to do that to everybody? What a freaking damage. You know? Dude, let him do it. His job. Okay? Ask questions first and then shoot Leo. You know? I don't cover his gun. Cool. Do it. Hey. Get you talking about, oh, okay, if Ron take you there, oh, okay. Cool, thanks. Okay, cool. You'll be late. I'll let you leave.
Most highly requested legal TV show.
Yeah. Can't go. My daughter is going to date boys. Okay, mostly, not my oldest one.
And be sure to stick around until the end, where I give this episode of The Good Wife a grade for legal realism and how accurate it is to
Small
real
one.
life.
Yeah, oldest one can date.
Without
Also,
any further
yes,
ado, let's
but
get started and dig
she
right
has
into
seen that I have
The Good
speech issues, you know. You kind of skill. Yes, I got married. A date. It's just, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, so the main character is being assigned with pro bono work. It's not uncommon for large law firms to get a huge case. It's all hands on deck, so they really pull in all the bodies they can. And as the lawyer mentioned, it does tend to help with year-end bonuses. If you work a lot of billable hours, then you get a lot of year-end bonuses. But the main character is getting assigned pro bono. Now, pro bono, as you may know, is work that's provided by a law firm for usually indigent clients, but generally law firms, and sometimes it's mandated by the state, have to do a certain number of pro bono hours per year. It's a way for the law firm to give back, and it's a way to help those who can't afford really expensive lawyers and legal services. The lawyers will provide that for free, and that's called pro bono. So it looks like everybody else is being thrown on this huge class action, whereas the main character is being given the leftover pro bono, which is not uncommon.
So, exciting of you. As you graduated top of your class at Georgetown. When was this? 15 years ago. And you spent 2 years at Crozier, Abrams, and Abbott. Will says you clocked the highest billable hours there. Why'd you leave?
Okay, that's a funny throwaway line. They're trying to imply that the main character is a really diligent worker. The way it works at really big law firms is that the lawyers are all on salary. So at the end of the year, they'll all take home the same amount, except if there's a big bonus. And the way that you get a big bonus is by clocking a large number of hours. Not every hour that you work at a law firm brings in money to the law firm or to you personally as a lawyer. And it's only when you're in a much smaller firm does every hour that you bill go directly into your pocket. In large law firms, all the attorneys' billable hours go into a general pot that's divided based on the salary. And so they're saying that she, back in the day when she was in private practice, was billing more than anybody else. And in real life, certainly someone has to bill more hours than everybody else. But those numbers can be very, very high, somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 billable hours per year. I would say for every 3 to 4 billable hours you're in the office, you're probably not billing at least one of those hours, whether you're eating lunch or eating dinner if you're really staying late, or you're just taking a break. There are lots of times when you're in the office and you're not billing. So to bill the highest number of billable hours in a firm is both a badge of honor and sort of a dubious mark that she's just a really, really hard worker, good for the firm, but not necessarily good for her personal life. So that's an interesting little tidbit that they threw in there.
Jennifer Lewis, 26 years old, taught 2nd grade, accused of killing her ex-husband. Prosecution thought it was a slam dunk 45 years, but the jury came back last week deadlocked. 6 jurors voted to convict, 6 not. I'm not even sure why the state attorney is retrying, except he wants justice. He wants to prove himself, so stick with my strategy from the first trial. The police focused on Jennifer so early in the investigation, they never even looked for the carjacker.
What she's talking about there is that when in jury trial, you generally have 12 jurors. That's why the famous movie is called 12 Angry Men, because back in the day, they were called men. Now, that's obviously not the case, which is a good thing. But to convict someone, you have to get all 12 jurors to vote to convict. If any one of those people refuses to vote to convict the individual, it's called a hung jury. Now, that's different than if all 12 of the jurors say not to convict or to acquit. Then the person just goes free. And there's no way to retry them, generally speaking. Here, obviously, at least one of the jurors found that they couldn't find her guilty. The jury hung, and in that situation, the prosecutor has the ability to retry that individual at a later time. They go through the entire trial all over again. So that's apparently what's going on. This woman is going to be tried for a second time.
Where's Diane? Diane asked me to step in for her.
Oh.
Jennifer, I'm Alicia Florek. I'm one of the lawyers with the firm.
Step in. For how long?
For the retrial.
My God.
All rise. Ma'am. The Criminal Court of Cook County is now in session. The Honorable Judge Richard Cuesta presiding. Be seated. Okay, let's hear it.
Your Honor,
Your Honor, just to refresh your memory, the accused was deemed a flight risk due to an earlier custody hearing when she threatened to run off with her daughter.
So that was a good tactic by the prosecutor here to take the lead and to educate the judge. Usually what happens when you make an appearance in court is there's a huge docket, which means that there are maybe a dozen or so cases that have hearings to discuss that morning or that afternoon. So, number one, the judge has a lot of different cases to deal with. Number two, it may have been weeks or months since you were last in the courthouse, especially if you're in state court, where there are just lots and lots of cases continually churning. So now the judge will probably take a look at the paperwork before taking the stand, but again, there may be a dozen or so cases that he or she needs to talk about that morning. So it's always a good idea to take the initiative and to err on the side of providing more information to the judge than you would necessarily give to someone who's very familiar with the case, because the judge might not remember that. But I think it's also to show that the prosecutor is just kind of taking command and being a jerk, but we'll see.
Just last week, a jury deadlocked on these murder charges 6-6, Mr. Brody. Now, I know our new state's attorney wants to look tough, but why are you fighting it?
In reality, if a jury hung 6 members of the jury to 6, meaning 6 wanted to vote for guilt and 6 wanted to acquit, it's very unlikely the prosecutor would try that case again. That means you have a really weak case. Usually a hung jury is 1 or 2 people, which means that with a different jury pool, you have a much better chance of conviction. But if you're hanging the jury 6-6, your case is weak, and you probably don't want to try that one again. It's just a waste of the court's time at that point.
Ew, look at everyone.
If Mrs. Floric is so intent on getting a client out, why doesn't she agree to a speedy trial?
Mrs. Floric?
Yes, Your Honor.
The wife of the esteemed Peter Floric? Your husband and I never quite saw eye to eye, ma'am.
Your Honor.
Mrs. Floric, don't talk. But if the prosecution thinks that this will in some way prejudice me against your client, he is sorely mistaken. Nice try, Matan. So, Ms. Lewis is granted pretrial release with electronic monitoring. She is restricted to temporary housing, attorney's offices, and transit in between. And given that this is a rerun, I'll set the trial date for the 25th. Now, are we all happy? Good.
That's a little more tierce and crotchety than most judges are going to be. Judges know what's going on for the most part. When they see a new attorney, they're likely to be a little bit more lenient than this judge here, although he is giving the main character Alicia what she wants, so he's sort of telling her, you're going to win this one, so just be quiet. Still, you want to command respect from all the lawyers, and so you don't want to be coming off as a crotchety old person, and so that's a little unrealistic. This hearing will probably take 10 to 15 minutes, not 30 seconds, but the outcome and the interchange is not crazy.
A man came up to Michael. I didn't see the gun until and I saw Michael's face. It was Do you need to take a break? No. Just if there was some water. Sure.
Sonia, we need some water in here.
It's gonna be about 5 minutes, but then I've got to do a step upstairs.
That secretary should definitely support an attorney who is conducting an interview of a criminal defendant. That is going to trump whatever it is that she was working on at the moment. And also, it's not unusual for secretaries to support 3, 4, and sometimes 5 attorneys in a major law firm. It's part of the cost-cutting measures that a lot of big firms use. It's actually not very difficult for assistants to provide support to 2 different attorneys at the same time. And also, I don't know what she was supposed to do with the deposition. That's not something secretaries do. Anyway, alright, so Alicia's underwater, I guess.
Can I ask you how many voted for conviction from the start, sir?
11.
What?
But there was only one holdout, juror number 9. We argued with her for 3 days.
But the judge polled the jury, and they deadlocked 6 to 6.
Yes, well, the judge would only declare us deadlocked if we were evenly split, so some of us agreed to change our vote to not guilty just to get out of there. If it hadn't been for juror number 9, we would have convicted. She didn't convince us. She exhausted us.
Ooh, that's interesting. I've never heard of that happening, but that does sound like something that could happen. A judge has some discretion about when to declare a particular case as deadlocked. So it's possible that under some circumstances that the jury just wanted to go home, and so that they would manipulate some of their votes to make it seem like a deadlock, and everyone can get out of it. That wouldn't be a good thing for our judicial system. But unfortunately, that sounds like something that's plausible, because jurors are human beings too.
Oh, and by the way, I don't pretend to know the entire body of American jurisprudence off the top of my head, so I may get things wrong from time to time. If you see a legal or factual inaccuracy, please leave me a comment down below. But if you do, please leave me a comment in the form of an objection. If you leave an objection, I will get to it, and I will either sustain or overrule your objection. I look forward to seeing them.
Just so I'm clear, the defense expert argued that the gunshot residue on Jennifer's hands came from the struggle. Is that why you held out? Oh, I don't know about that. I just tend to get a feeling. Don't I, Cyrus?
Okay, that sounds a little crazy that a juror would base her decision based only on a feeling, but a juror can make their decision based on just about anything. And I remember when I served on a jury when I was in law school, in a criminal case, one of the jurors refused to convict because she felt her spirit wouldn't allow it, and she couldn't articulate any other reasons. Now, the other jurors and I took a step back. We realized the woman was doing the best that she could, and we talked it through, and eventually we all 12 decided on conviction on most of the counts at issue. But people make different decisions for different reasons, and that's part of the benefit of the jury system, is that it's a check and balance to make sure that the state doesn't overreach. But the downside is that sometimes you can get some really strange decision making going on behind the curtain of the jury.
You know the new associate, Carrie?
The one in the Brioni? What? I'm observant.
Yes, the one in the Brioni.
Brioni, the
He
type
said
of
to me, may the best man win. What exactly does he mean by that?
What he means is something I thought we weren't making public.
What?
Look, we only have one associate position open, so we agreed to hire 2 applicants and in 6 months decide which one to retain.
So this is a contest between me and Carrie?
It was either that or a cage match.
That would be highly unusual, to hire 2 associates and then make them fight to the death, especially because associates can be profit centers for large law firms. They work a lot of hours, and their salary is high compared to the national average, but it's actually low compared to the revenue that they're bringing into the firm. So generally, there's no real reason to make associates fight against each other. If you make an offer to someone at a large law firm, generally they can stick around for quite some time because they're good for the firm, and there's no reason to get rid of them. It would also be highly unusual to tell the 2 associates that they're up against each other. You wouldn't want to create bad blood between those associates and all the other associates as well. So that's pretty unusual to say that 2 associates are going to fight to the death for their position.
The secret to keeping hair glossy and gorgeous at home? Le Color Gloss. L'Oreal's first toning gloss you use in the shower. No mess, no damage. Keeps colored hair toned, glossy, and gorgeous at home. Le Color Gloss from L'Oreal.